Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is for players that are looking to control their spine better at the top of the backswing. Very common to see players, as they move towards the top of the backswing, adapt through the spine in various ways in relation to how they've moved earlier in the swing. So if you're looking to improve your top of your backswing, be in a better position to work into downswing, this could be a good video for you. Thanks once again for tuning in. So today we're looking at top of the backswing, and who doesn't want a visually aesthetic top of the backswing position? Probably the most captured part of the swing from an image standpoint of high level players. And it's not just great from a visual standpoint, obviously from a performance standpoint, very helpful to be in a certain position at the top. But with a lot of amateur golfers and players that struggle with their ball striking, what I'll notice is as they get into the top of the backswing, there's a fair amount of adaptation through the spine. So whether that might be too much extension, where the rib cage starts to elevate and the distance between their belt buckle and their sternum increases, that's one that we'll commonly see. Or even more visual from the downline standpoint, the player will start to adapt their side bends. So side bend being, for me, a right-handed golfer, that would be right side bend, or trail side bend I should say, and lead side bend here. So through the golf swing, as we move to into your backswing, there will be a change in side bend value, but from a feel standpoint, a player would want to feel as though they're staying pretty much equal length from their trail to their lead side bend there as they get to the top. So let's focus on those two today, the side bends and the extension, because I find if we do a good job with those with players, they're going to be in that position where they look very stable from a body standpoint at the top of the backswing. I just gave an online lesson with a player, and it was pretty evident with this player that it was the hand and arm motion as they were getting to the top of backswing that was making it really hard for them to maintain a good position from their spine and their body standpoint. So I wanted to share a couple of keys from that lesson with you, because I find that's often the case for many players. If we get the arms and the hands, the wrists and the club in a better position through backswing so we can support it well at the top, then the body doesn't have to adapt. Because if you were to imagine, if we had a dumbbell or a kettlebell and we move something a little heavier up here, and we don't have our arms in a good position or structure to support it, we're going to start compensating, supporting that by moving the bigger segments of our body. And essentially that's what's happening when we get out of position with our hands and arms. So very common with players to adapt early through the hands and arms when the body's not moving how we'd like it in the takeaway. So for the player that I actually just taught, in the takeaway, the body wouldn't move or rotate enough, so they would start to use their hands and arms. They would adapt their hands and arms to achieve what would look like the plane that you would want in the backswing. So essentially, I find that most golfers are aware enough to where we swing the club in a circle around us, and because we are on a tilt, the club will work on a plane. So if the body does not match that visual, so the body motion isn't matching that in the start with the rotation, now we're going to create movement through the hands and arms to achieve that position. Now the issue with that as we go through a backswing there is now the hands and the arms are not matched up with the body movement, because the body hasn't rotated and we've had more movement through the hands and arms than we'd like to. So as we get to the top there, you can see now I've compromised the structure of my hands and arms, and I'm going to have to start to adapt through my spine. So this is just one example of how what happens early in the swing has such a big influence on the way a player moves later in their swing. And often, like I did with this player, you're going to have to go back to setup, because there's lots of times when people or players are set up and they're already in a restricted position to where they can't really move well, especially with the bigger segments of their body. So with this player, I'm just going to share two things that we did with them. After we got them set up better, all I worked on with the player was to take the manipulation of the hands and arms out, was I had them to actually reach with their lead hand down their toe line, but I had them, whatever pressure they had in their lead heel at address, they had to feel as though they were trying to maintain it while they were reaching. So obviously while I'm reaching this way, big segments of my body, the mass of my body is moving this way, but I want them to feel as though they're maintaining pressure. So they're actually pushing into that left heel as they're reaching. And I also encourage the player to see if they could keep the head just inside the trail foot. So what we're doing here is, one, we're creating space between the hands and the body. And often when you create space between the hands and the body, you can see in this position here, there's really no need for me to do this kind of movement here with my hands and my arms there anymore. So it's going to help keep my hands and my arms and my wrists much calmer, creating that space. Also, when I do that from a down the line standpoint, you'll notice how much rotation that the hands moving away from me is creating. So one, it's going to help reduce the hands and arm movement, and two, it's going to really facilitate the rotation that we want through backswing. So that was probably the main exercise that we did. And then the player in the beginning was a little limited as far as how much they support the club. So it's really hard to kind of reach if you don't have the right support here. So we added that as well. So the player actually had the club in a nice supported position on the way back here. So that was the main little exercise that we did, maintaining the pressure in the left heel while in a good setup position and reaching out behind us. The only addition that I added to that for the player was that I wanted them through backswing to use the reference I shared with you just a moment ago of keeping the space between the belt buckle and the sternum the same as they move to the top, because now we're here in a much better position where the arms and the body are matched. We have an opportunity to be in a good position at the top of backswing. And often that reference as well, if you share to keep the distance between the belt buckle and the sternum the same, it will also help with if someone has any kind of lateral or side bend bias as well. So it's a really good one to use. But anything like this where it's working on a transition move or a movement at the top, it's often quite a quick phase of the golf swing. It can go so quickly, it's hard to be aware of your movement unless you're somehow monitoring it with a camera or using some kind of technology. So if you are practicing this, you're going to have to really slow down. You're going to have to be aware of whether you're hitting your checkpoints, and you're going to have to get used to being a little bit uncomfortable, because especially if you are changing your visual with your eyes, as I mentioned there, we're going to allow the head to move a little bit off the ball to help create that width. You're going to have to be very patient coming into impact. So a lot of pause drills, a lot of really slow swings are going to be really helpful. But if you're looking to improve that top of the backswing position, try those couple of exercises there. Make sure you're in a good setup position first. Use the little reach exercise and have that awareness of the distance between your belt buckle and your sternum.